Valentino from WSOU here with Jay from Gizmachi. How you doing today, Jay?
Doing good, Valentino, man. This is gonna be fun. I can already tell.
Oh, thank you. We're so happy to have you on. Obviously, your first record did so well in 2005 on our airwaves, and now we're super excited to be promoting the new one.
We're excited to the people actually give a crap at this point. I mean, like you said, that album came out, almost 16 years ago to I think May 3rd or something, 2005 it came out. And putting this one out now, it's like, is anybody gonna remember who we are? So it's good that it seems like there's a little bit of a buzz going on. So we'll see if that carries through the release.
I think that's almost like perfect, like universe justice in the sense that almost 16 years in the same week span kind of thing. This record's finally coming out, like in that same time frame.
Yep. Yeah, it is cool. And it's a long time coming. We're just happy about it. So
yeah. So now another thing I definitely wanted to ask you about is I've talked to a lot of bands about releasing music in 2020 and 2021 during this pandemic we're in. And a lot of bands have been like, I've asked the question of, oh, you've probably had this written in 2019, 2018, and you've had to sit on it for a full year. How has that been? Whereas with you guys almost had this record done in 2012. So you've been sitting on these songs for like almost a decade. How does that feel, like sitting on that for that long to have it come out?
we can almost go back a few years before that because if you want me to get into a little bit of the backstory why it took so long, I can. I don't want to be too long-winded with it, but when we were on in the touring cycle for the imbuing, towards the end of 2006, our drummer Jimmy developed an issue with his wrist called de-Quervain syndrome, and he couldn't really play. So we kind of had to have some fill-in drummers for a little bit that kind of helped us finish that tour and a couple other tours after. So, a lot of the writing for this album was done in 07 and 08, and 06 for that matter. The songs weren't necessarily finished, but once Jimmy's wrist got a lot better, I mean, we had really no choice at that point to kind of go on a hiatus because, if anybody's heard Gizmachi, they'll realize that, Jimmy's drumming is a very important part of the sound, and it's not easy to play that stuff. So finding somebody to play that stuff was very difficult. So, when Jimmy kind of got better and his wrist improved, we said, all right, let's get back and let's try to finish this record and, and record it and stuff. And like you said, the 2012, the Kickstarter campaign, which we've been absolutely destroyed over, which I understand. Don't get me wrong. I totally understand why people are upset and I get it. But there's a lot of different things that kind of went on that made it take this long. And obviously, the Bjorn Strid thing, which kind of allowed us to finish the record finally. But you talk about finishing a record and putting out a record like during this time frame, with what's going on in the world, we're kind of like on an even playing field, I feel, because no one's out touring, no one's out playing. So right now it's kind of like an even playing field with like, hey, everyone's just releasing music. Well, we're releasing music too now. And as far as the live thing, we'll see what happens with that. But it's just weird that it's taken this long, but I don't know. I think the songs are good. So it's all that matters. If exactly. I'll say this, if the album came out earlier, we had a lot of time to really hone in and, you have songs written for so long. You're like, hey, you keep listening to them and you kind of keep tweaking and tweaking. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that's a bad thing, but we feel like this was a good thing.
Especially like every single second of this record, every millisecond, for a fact, okay, this is what we want. There's no debate on this. Like you've really spent so much time crafting this record as much as you humanly can.
Yeah, we definitely did. I mean, there's a couple parts where maybe we got a little self-indulgent, which, I produced the record. So maybe that's a little bit of my fault. Like, hey, this part's really cool. It might not 100% fit. You are doing it anyway, that type of thing. But no, it's we're happy with it. I mean, nobody in the band is like second guessing anything at this point. So we're proud of it,
And another thing that I definitely want to discuss is obviously that vocalist change. You had Bjorn on this new record. That has got to be super weird in the sense that, you've had your previous vocalist for so long from 2000, early 2000s all the way until, right up until this record was released and started to be recorded. Was
Mhm.
it weird to have a new vocalist come in and kind of give his own take on the songs, breathe his own life into it?
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, I don't want to, you know, maybe divulge too much info on what happened or whatever, but it got to the point where the record needed to come out, so that's why we kind of went in the different vocalist, direction. And when that kind of realized that that was going to need to happen, we kind of didn't know what we were going to do. One of the ideas was to have Mike, the other guitarist who sings, a lot of the clean stuff. We were like toying with the idea, hey, maybe Mike can handle the full album vocal duty. And then I forget what spurred the whole Bjorn thing, but I maybe it was Jimmy or something. The drummer was like, what about Bjorn? We've been cool with those guys since 2005 on Ozfest. So we kind of reached out. He said, send me a couple tracks. Let me hear it. And within minutes, he was like, let's do it. Let's do it. And I still remember the first song he sent back to us that he finished was Look What I've Become, which is the single right now that hopefully you guys are spinning a little bit.
Yep.
And I still remember, turning it on, and me and my wife were sitting there on the couch, and we just turned and looked at each other, and we're like, yes, yes. And yeah, you're right. I mean, everybody is going to put their own spin on it. So, obviously if it came out earlier, it would have been different vocally, obviously, but we think Bjorn really, I've heard somebody say it's Gizmachi on steroids with Bjorn on vocals. And the second I heard that, I was like, yeah, it really is. you know?
Exactly. And I know I personally am someone who prefers that kind of longer album gap for a really quality record rather than once every 2 years, maybe getting a good one, maybe getting a bad one. And when I heard this record in full for the very first time with Bjorn, with all of your instrumentation, like, the drums were at like 150%, the guitars were absolutely incredible, the bass lines were so fresh. It really did feel like Ismachi on steroids, is what it felt like. It felt like you guys didn't spend the last 16 years doing nothing. You
Yeah.
spent the last 16 years writing this record.
Yeah, it's true, man. Like you said, you have your whole life to write your first record. I've always heard that. You have your whole life to write your first record, and you have 2 years, well, less, if you're going on tour and stuff, to do your second record. Well, that's not the case with us. We had, if you think about it, time frame, we had more time to do the second album. But yeah, man, Gizmachi on steroids. That's how we should put the sticker on the CD with that. I think that would be good.
That would be really fun. A good little log line for that.
Yeah, it would.
So now, kind of going back into, that first record versus this record, obviously we've talked a little bit about the long gap. I also want to talk about emotionally, like the headspace. I'm sure you guys had to have a lot of pressure because that first record did so well. I'm sure that also factored into emotionally you guys writing the second record.
Yeah, we felt like, and I could speak for the band because I know they feel the same way, that I guess the songs we wrote near the end of like all the songs we wrote for the Imbuing, the first record, we kind of like realized, okay, I think every band goes through this. They write music, they go through a progression, and they hit a point where they're like, this is our sound. This is us. And the last couple songs we wrote on the Imbuing, like one of them was Wandering Eyes, for instance. A few like that we really, kind of honed in on what we wanted to sound like. And I think this record's full of a lot of that stuff where, it's us, it really is. Where am I going with this? Well, I'm trying to, you might have to ask the second half of that question. I apologize, but
No worries. Just like the pressure of the headspace.
okay. So I think there might have been more. Well, it depends because, I know like Clown, obviously we're under his label for the first record. A lot of pressure of like being under him and him like, promoting it and helping out in that way, which was a lot of fun. And this album, I mean, it was almost like a little bit of a refreshing thing where like, there wasn't the pressure of having that behind us. It was just us, you know? And obviously there might be more pressure when it's just you promoting it or pushing it, but at the same time, I feel almost like relieved that this is us. If anybody dislikes the record, it's us to blame, not somebody else. I produced it, we produced it type of thing. And I'll take it.
Exactly. There's a level of again, you know every second of this record is your own. You feel very confident that this is, your best record to date. So if people
Yes.
don't like it, then they don't like it. Like I'm,
Yeah.
I'm not going to change your mind on that.
And it is us, man. It really is. There was nobody really in, and I'm of the mindset of like, bands might need a producer, especially maybe when they get later in their careers. But with this one, it's like we kind of knew what we wanted to do. We prefer writing the longer songs. I think the title track, Omega Kaleid, which is my favorite song we've ever written. That one clocks in at over 9 minutes. There's a couple shorter ones, but we kind of like the long journey song type of thing that takes you different places. So we really kicked on that on that one.
Exactly. And kind of going back to what you're saying with like the producer thing. Obviously with this one you worked with Mark Lewis on
Yeah.
this. He was a helping hand, but as you said, he was also kind of like let you guys complete your vision.
Well, he mixed it. So he we got him in. The original plan was I was gonna, because I do engineering and mixing and producing as
Yeah.
well. So I was gonna be the one that was gonna mix it. And then it got to that point where, everybody in the band was like pulling me in different directions. And this isn't anything negative against anybody. I would have been doing the same thing because I was actually, second guessing every move I was making. I'm like, all right, a little more reverb here. And then what about this? And then, I'm getting phone calls and texts from the other guys in the band. And they're like, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And it got to the point where I'm thinking, I'm like, I'm driving myself nuts. I'm driving my wife nuts. Um, we got to bring somebody else in. And it was kind of like an ego check for me a little bit. I'm like, all right, somebody else is going to mix my baby. So we contacted Mark, and Mark was actually our guitar tech on Ozfest in '05 as well. So we've been friends with him ever since. And I contacted him, and the second I said, would you be interested in mixing the new Gizmachi record? I don't know if he could swear on here, but he said, F yeah, man, send it to me. Let's do it. So it was nice to have him involved. And that way it was like everybody just took a step back and let somebody else put their ears and talent on it, as far as mixing. So Mark crushed it, man. I'm
Yeah.
super happy with the mix and how it
He
sounds.
really did kill it, as you all did. But I understand what you're saying in the sense that, like, when you write something from scratch, it's already your baby and you have in mind what you want it to do. But then you have someone else in the band that wrote their part from scratch and they might have a little bit of a different variation. It might be the same ultimate vision, but there's like tiny little steps in between you guys might differ on. And so when you're producing this on your own, you're going to need an outside party to mix it and just like neutral perspective.
Yeah, that definitely helped because, like you said, in the band, there's always that tug of war,
Mhm.
which happens. Bands, it's not an easy thing to be in, especially when you have very creative people, and somebody writes a part, they want that part to be the most prominent thing in that section or whatever. So I get it, but when somebody else got involved, and everybody in the band knows that Mark is very good at what he does, so it was that thing of like, step back, let him hear it, and let him breathe new life into it, and that's what he did.
Mm. And now, since we're talking a little bit about also the songwriting process, I want to kind of go a little bit more into that aspect of it. One of the things on this record in particular that I absolutely love is the way that you guys balance the more kind of melodic moments with the really, really heavy moments. With the opening, of the record Winter, you've got that more melodic sound going right into the heaviness of Paradox. And then, on that more longer track, Inner Visions, it's like it starts out really heavy, then that end just kind of gets more melodic and builds.
Mhm.
How do you know when writing these songs what goes where, the placement of this?
Well, a song always starts with like a riff, I know James Hetfield has said that a million times, but it's true. And then you kind of build off of that. And I always think uh, that a song, when it's done, I don't want to say correctly because there's no right or wrong in music. It's whatever. But in my opinion, when we're writing something, I almost feel like sometimes it starts to write itself. It kind of gives you the vibe of what the next part should be or needs to be. So, you get a song and you got, verse, chorus, then it goes to a bridge. Well, do we slow down here or do we kind of like have a build up into like something heavy and fast? And I feel like sometimes the song will tell you what it needs next. You just have to kind of let it happen. So that's kind of I mean, like I said, a lot of this album was written, '06, '07, '08, but it was an organic thing. It was it sometimes takes us a very long time to write a song, but you know, and then you got the layers over top. It's like, you know, you have the guitars and everything, and then there's we really spent a lot of time with the harmony stuff too. There's a lot more harmony guitars on this record than there was on the imbuing, and that was definitely a conscious thing for us, is we wanted more melody in the guitars and more lead stuff. And you know, I like it. I love that stuff, man. I really do.
And like, I definitely hear a lot of the more melodic lead guitars. I know Turn to Dust was that one track where that opening guitar, you know, right after you have the little vocal sample, that opening guitar just kicks in. And it was so different than the imbuing. I remember hearing that for the first time and kind of being like shocked, like, oh my God, like that's crazy. That's such a cool line.
Well, it's funny how that happened. There's a heavy riff, the bridge part in that song. There's a super heavy riff and kind of a long section. And my idea was to put a solo there. Well, I was having a kind of a tough time of you know, trying to find something cool. You know, I kept sending it back to the guys. So Mike, who actually wrote that riff in that bridge section, was like, "Does that part really need a solo?" And I'm like, "It's got to have something in it, right?" So then I think Jimmy texted back. You know, we have a group thread, of course. You know, so he's like, "Why don't you put something in the beginning? You know, kind of like the main riff or whatever in that intro part. Why don't you do something there?" So instantly I listened to it, and I was like, things started going off in my head, and I'm like, I think Jimmy's onto something here, you know. And it's a very weird part. You know, I've had people telling me like, the hell were you thinking during that intro, you know, little lead solo thing? And I was like, I don't know. I just, you know, I would use the whammy pedal, I think, for one part, you know, little things like that. But so there's no solo in the middle section of the bridge, but then I also do the outro kind of like, you know, with the super duper melodic, you know, Mike singing that part, and kind of like a back and forth with the lead guitar there as well. So I was like, okay, I can't have a main solo in the song, so I'm going to put two others bookend the son of a bitch with two. So, you know, I did that. So
Yeah.
I got my, you know, I was going to say I got my way, but you know, it's not really the case, but I think it helps the song as well. You know, it really does.
And especially having it in that placement where it immediately hooks you in, you know, like within the first few seconds, that solo hits. And I know like some people are more fans of the heavy vocals, some people are more fans of like the drums, and like some rock fans are more into the guitars kind of thing. And those more guitar driven fans, when they hear that, they're instantly engaged, you know. And I personally think it's such a genius way to start the song off.
Well, yeah, thanks, but it wasn't supposed to be like
Yeah.
that wasn't the original idea. It was
Yeah.
one of the, but that's the great part about having everybody with input in the band. You know, we don't just have one person, you know, that has like, you know, it's my way or the highway type of thing. You know, once that spark hits from somebody else, why don't you do something there? Oh, I never thought of that. So that's why being in a band with these guys is awesome. You know, everybody's very creative and has ideas. So it's cool.
And the fact that you guys are all so proud of this record means that, you know, the collaboration process went just as you guys anticipated. You know, bands that don't collaborate well, typically when they drop an album, one of the band members is like, you know, well,
Yep.
it's out. But all the interviews I've seen with you guys, everyone is just so excited about this being out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a good thing. If somebody's not happy, then you know, then what are you doing in the band? Get out.
Yep. So what's the first thing you're gonna do when this record drops? March 12th. It's coming up.
Man, I don't know. It's it's a very weird thing because, you know, the difference from when the imbuing came out, you know, I was 27 then, I think 26 or 27 when that album came out. And it was, you know, that's all everybody wanted was like, we have a record coming out. We're going to be going on tour. You know, who knows what's going to happen? That was the only thing that mattered, you know, and now it's a little different. I'm 43. I have 2 kids, a beautiful wife. And it's like, it's just a different mindset, but it's still cool at the same time. It's just a different, you know, it's a long time, man. 16 years,
Yeah.
you know, a lot has changed. I know, you know, people, I shop from this one. I'm not going to mention the music store because I don't want to throw anybody into the bus, but I was looking to get something customized on a guitar, and I'm talking to the guy on the phone, and he goes, I'm not supposed to say this, but he goes, I'm looking at your account. And he goes, I see that you're in Gizmachi. He goes, I saw you guys on Ozfest in what was it, Indianapolis or Indiana? Yeah, in Indiana in '05. And he's like, this is kind of cool. And I'm like, that's weird, so
Yeah.
thinking about that, it's like a lot of the kids that were listening to us then, it's a long time's past. They got families now, they're older. This guy obviously has a pretty big gig at a big guitar store. So now we just got to get that younger back to, the younger audience into us, starting from that. So, it's weird, but it's cool at the same time, almost a whole lifetime has passed.
And I definitely see what you're saying in the sense that this record, Omega Kaleid, sounds more mature. I mean, like, your first record, it was a phenomenal record, but this one just has more, it has more maturity to the lyrics. It feels like the band has evolved. I know I
Yeah.
said this earlier in the interview, but you guys didn't waste the last 16 years doing nothing. It shows when listening to this record. It's a very different evolution of the band.
Yeah, it's definitely, we're playing no games on this one. I mean, I know there's a couple goofy, intros to a couple songs and stuff, which we can't help it. We're goofy dudes, but the maturity thing I definitely feel as well. It's very honed in. And it's to the point of what we are as a band and what we want to sound like. And like I said, there was no, everybody in the band is very, very proud of it. And there's no second guessing as far as what we're putting out. You know what I mean?
And obviously, another thing that I kind of want to discuss, we talked a little bit about it earlier with the whole even playing field that's happening right now. You just mentioned, the live shows that you guys have been doing. Typically in the music industry since the beginning of time, practically, when you drop a record, the standard practice is to tour on that record and play as many shows as possible. Right now in 2021, that's not an option for any band that wants to drop new music. And especially with Gizmachi, where you guys, are really known for your incredible live shows. You mentioned Ozfest, like one of the most legendary performances, how is that for you guys, dropping this record and maybe not being able to play these songs live for a while?
It might be a good thing. I don't know. We're still trying to figure out how it's going to happen for us personally, not as a planet, but for us, because obviously Bjorn, we know he's in Soilwork, the Night Flight Orchestra. He has a million projects going on. So we kind of got to figure out if it's possible. I mean, I don't want to divulge too much info and end up, being wrong and like, oh, Jay said they were going to do this and then they didn't do it, getting into the whole Kickstarter thing again. But I mean, one of the ways I see it happening, this is obviously if the stars are lined up, if lightning strikes, that type of thing, maybe there's some festivals or whatever, whether it be in the States or whether it be in Europe, where maybe like one of Bjorn's bands on and we, have him try to get him to do double duty, something. I don't know. But, we've internally as a band, the four of us, we haven't discussed this outside of that yet, except with you right now, make sure this doesn't get out. No, I'm joking. But, I mean, we would love to be able to do something like that. It just, whether it's with somebody else, I mean, we'd obviously love to play these songs live with who is on the record. You know what I mean? To me, that would be very important. But we'll see what happens. Anything is possible. So we'll see. But like I said, I would love to be able to go out and, melt everybody's face in the front,
Especially with a record as energetic as this, it almost feels like a crime not to do at least one show, you know what I mean, of playing these new songs live. You've spent 16 years writing this, preparing for this, and the record is out and it's just as energetic and face melting, as fans are expecting it to be. I know that in any way, if it works with Bjorn, if it doesn't, we're just happy to see these songs live. So
yeah, that would be cool. Like I said, I'm just glad that there is a little bit of a buzz. I would just hope the buzz continues after the record comes out. And I know we've had 2 singles so far come out. You mentioned Turn to Dust before. That is an idea for the 3rd single. We have some other cool stuff coming up. I think the day the record comes out, which is March 12th, this Friday coming up. We're dropping a music video, Jesus, a lyric video for the
Mm.
title track Omega Kaleid. And I know you mentioned Khalid before or whatever, which we've heard a lot of that. But if it's the album name comes from the collide part is the first half of Kaleidoscope. So I came up with that idea, and I remember everybody in the band is like, dude, everyone's gonna think it's like Khalid or DJ Khalid or something. I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's still a cool name. I think it looks cool, you know. So it is
It's so
Omega
funny you said
Kaleid.
that. I went on the internet and I found like different pronunciations and every single one gave me the wrong one. And then I went on like other interviews with you guys and then you would say something, but then the DJ would say something else. So it's nice collide. It's nice to have
Collide,
that
yes, yes. And that's
official.
good that people are you're actually like looking up. How do you say that's a good thing when people are actually like, wait a minute, how is it pronounced? You know, so that's
Yeah.
kind of cool too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So now I've got one more question for you. First off, I want to thank you so much again for sitting and talking with me today. It's been a real honor to, dive into this record, talk to you about the songwriting process and the last 16 years of Gizmachi.
Well, thank you for actually wanting to do this. I mean, like I said, when we were getting ready to put this out, we weren't sure if anybody was going to care. So it is nice to all of a sudden see like, wow, people actually are giving a crap right now. This is neat. You know, nobody wants to put out a record on deaf ears, you know.
Mm.
So I'm
And
glad
we've
you
been
guys
playing
care.
it, all the time on new music for WSOU 89.5 FM. And we've gotten callers call in, be like, oh my gosh, is this Gizmachi? Like, I can't believe this. Like, I haven't heard them in years. So I know that a lot of the listeners are definitely getting a blast from the past and are hearing about this record as well.
That's awesome.
Um, so my last question for you, and now this is kind of a more difficult question, I guess, to summarize, but you guys have obviously been in this hardcore metal scene for 2 decades now.
Yeah.
If you could talk to me a little bit about how the New York hardcore scene in particular has kind of evolved, because it's definitely changed a lot since when you guys started, and any differences you see in the New York hardcore scene and the New York metal scene in 2021. It's hard because there's no touring, but
Yeah.
2019 versus all the way in 2000.
Man, I don't know how to answer that because I mean, I actually live in South Carolina now.
Oh, yeah.
So the rest of the guys are still up in New York. But I just from our perspective, I guess from back then, like we started really the early 2000s, like maybe from 98, we started really playing out in the New York scene and everything like that. Let me turn my watch off because now all of a sudden I'm getting messages from the sorry about that. I apologize.
No worries, no worries.
We definitely saw the change, from like, and all of a sudden the new metal stuff kicked in from like the mid 90s till the late 2000s, not late, like the early 2000s and stuff when that was really big. And we were a part of that as well. A lot of the earlier stuff before the imbuing and even some of the imbuing has a little bit of that new metal influence. And then, we kind of started to, in case you don't know, if anybody's heard us, I know you can't tell that we have a huge Meshuggah influence in us. If it's anything not more obvious, but that
very,
kind
very subtle.
very subtle. That was really the turning point, I guess, into us writing more progressive music, progressive heavier music. I remember the first time that Jimmy, our drummer, showed me Meshuggah, it was the song Future Breed Machine off of Destroy Race Improve. And at the time, this was probably around 96 or probably late 96. He showed me this. And I was like, dude, it sounds like everybody's playing a different song at the same time. Like what is going on? The drummer's kicking his drum set down the stairs, like what is this? And then the more and more I kept listening to it, I was like, whoa, what is going on here? I almost felt like I was getting musically smarter, like I'm in school for like rhythm class, and I started to get it. And then all of a sudden we started to like write, different time signatures. I'm sorry if you can hear my daughter downstairs.
All good, all good.
And that was really, really for us.
I can't hear it. I can't hear it.
Okay, good. So that was really the spark of us getting a little more progressive. And I know that in that, like you said, the New York hardcore scene, maybe not many bands were doing that type of stuff. So I don't know. I mean, it was just a different dynamic, of like but that's what I loved about the New York hardcore scene as well. There was so many different styles of that heavy music. You know, you get on a bill with 7 other bands, you know, and every band has their different spin on metal and on hardcore and stuff like that. And I mean, we definitely played some shows with some killer hardcore bands and heavy bands and all that stuff back then. I just hope we're able to do it again sometime. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh, exactly. One of the things I personally love about the New York hardcore scene, you know, in the New Jersey hardcore scene as well, is just overall the accessibility of it. You know, I'm from Rhode Island and originally, and in Rhode Island, like, you know, you might have 1 or 2 shows like in a month, and you have to be ready for those, and you know, all that sort of stuff. Whereas in New York, almost every single night that concerts are allowed, there's going to be a show of some kind or another. You know, there's always
Yeah.
just so much of it. You know, and I loved how prevalent it was.
Yeah, and it was cool playing, you know, a lot of those shows. Like I said, everybody was cool. It felt like a one big family type of thing. You know, you're getting on these shows and everybody's playing a little, you know, that, like I said, their different spin on it. But everybody was super cool. And you know, here we are, how many years later? God.
Yeah.
It's crazy, you know.
Yep.
But I mean, as far as the metal scene up in New York right now, I don't, like I said, I don't really know. I don't really know what's going on too much up there.
All good. Well, hopefully
I
when
I do
shows are
know.
allowed,
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I do know that the place we really cut our teeth at, the
Mhm.
Chance in Poughkeepsie, New York,
Yes.
they're for sale right now. I saw that and I was like, oh
No.
wow, you know, because obviously, I mean, places that can't have shows, I mean, you know, it's hard. It's so they're for sale. I was like, man, if I had $2 million, you know,
Yeah,
buy
it's
the place.
just literally a year without business, a full almost yeah, a full year. So I know venues have been hit the hardest with all this.
Yeah, and I mean when they come back, like I know that, you know, I don't want to get too much into anything nuts here, but I know that's I think some states or whatever it was like, oh, we'll bring concerts back, but at 33% capacity. And it's like, well, number one, can the bands that are touring afford to be paid 33% of what they normally get? Can the venues afford to be open and only make 33% and sell 33% of the alcohol, whatever that
And
helped pay?
still keep the lights on.
Yeah, that's it's I understand the sentiment and I whatever, but it's like, it's not possible. I mean, the only way it's possible is like maybe local bands that are
Yeah.
playing that really can do something like that. But you're to get any like good touring acts, you know, national acts or international acts to come through and only get paid 33%, it's not they can't afford to do it.
No, yeah. And it's also just so frustrating, especially for the venues. I know artists are struggling as well, but like with artists, they can do live streams that they've been doing. They've been doing Patreons. They've been doing all these sort of things where venues, like if you don't got anything, if you don't have a show to play, like you're not going to get any money. So it's really, really hard for them. I
It is,
empathize with
and
it.
I don't want to keep you too long. I
Oh, no
apologize.
worries.
Sometimes I can, you know, shoot with the best of them, but um you know, there's that argument of like, well, when everything comes back full force, you know, one side is like, you know, everyone's so hungry for live music again. The places are going to be flooded. It's going to get back to what it was 20 years ago. And part of me feels like, I don't know. There's the other side of that. Like maybe people are getting comfortable with just watching their favorite bands, you know, like you said, do the live streams, do the Slay at homes, the playthroughs, that type of thing. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I hope everything comes back like that. I hope that concerts come back big time. I hope bands still do the live stuff, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Kind of
I could
scared.
definitely see, oh, sorry. No, I could definitely see if like the pop side or the rap side or like the country side, them being more comfortable with the live streams and just sitting back and enjoying it from the comfort of their homes. But I think for the rock and metal genre as a whole, like that music was just born for the live setting, you know, like when you listen to stuff like Omega Kaleid, you imagine yourself in a mosh pit, you know, like 3 people around you, a crowd surfer over your head kind of thing. Like I I definitely think specifically with the genre that we're in and the genre that we're, you know, comfortable with. I think that the live shows for us are probably going to be the most coveted.
Well, yeah, you're right. You hit the nail on the head right there, man. Is heavy music, rock, whatever. It's meant to be seen live, experienced live. There's just some kind of energy that this type of music, you feed off of each other. You know, you're playing it, you see people reacting to it, and they give it right back to you. And it's like, it really is the coolest thing from a fan's perspective and a you know, in a band's perspective. It really is like a special thing. You know, going to a concert, you go in, you're hanging out, you know, and next thing you know, like they're doing sound check and you hear that first kick drum, boom, and you're like, yes, you just feel it, man.
Yeah.
And I'm getting goosebumps like talking about this stuff, but there's nothing like experiencing a live, you know, rock, metal, whatever show. It's just something about it, man, to see, you know, 4 or 5, whatever guys, 9 guys in the, you know, in Slipknot, you know, giving that energy and going crazy. There really is nothing like it, you know.
And I've talked about this almost on like every video conference interview that I've done since 2020. And it's so true in the sense that there's this like circle of energy where the crowd goes crazy because the band's going crazy and the band feeds off the crowd's energy. And because the band is feeding off the crowd's energy, they're going nuts. And because they're going nuts, the crowd feeds off the band's energy. And so it's just this big circle of just like energy. And oh my gosh, exactly. And yeah. Continue.
No, I want to continue what you're saying. It's perfect. We could go all night now. So
I love it.
It's true because you know, the question always comes up about like, you know, is it nerve-wracking, like for instance Ozfest or something, you know, a couple thousand people. Is it hard to, you know, is it harder to play in front of like a lot of people than it is in front of like, you know, it's got to be nerve-wracking to play in front of that many people, and it's like it's exactly the opposite. We've had many a show on a Wednesday night at CBGB's in New York City. You know, we're playing at friggin', you know, 12 o'clock at night or 11 at night. And you're literally playing in front of the other bands and the bartender. That's not fun. I mean, it's fun, obviously, to play music, but it's not, you know, those are the ones that are like, you know, you get nervous, like no one's watching or there's 3 people watching. Yeah. But the ones where you're playing in front of a lot of people, those are the ones, like you say, it's just like, there's this huge, you almost get more excited and more into it. And you kind of lose yourself in the music more than you do when there's, you know, 5, 10, 15 people standing there looking at you. You know, when there's less people, I think everyone's kind of nervous to like lose themselves in the music. But when there's a buttload of people out there, everyone just loses their minds. It's the greatest thing. And you're right. Back and forth with the energy. I'll give it to you. You give it back. I'll bring it up a notch, and now you got it, and now you do more with it. And it's like you said, it's a circle, the circle of energy. It's beautiful.
And I love the way you put it with just like when there's 5 people, it's like way more difficult because I imagine as an artist, the weirdest thing is if you look out and you can see like individual faces in the sense that like just like staring at you, you know, I feel like that's got to be very uncomfortable. Whereas if you have a big crowd and it's just like a mass of an audience and like that, just that's an energy in of itself.
We played a show in Connecticut. I forget the name of the venue. It was an awesome venue. We played there a couple times, but for some reason, this one place just, you know, every band has like the places they play where the people lose their minds. And then those places they play where like, it seems like nobody gives a crap, you know? Yeah. But I remember this one place, man, we were like in our 2nd and 3rd song or whatever. And I just remember looking down and, you know, people in the front just like leaning on the barricade or the, you know, like just almost this, I remember this one girl was like this, you know, almost like sleeping. Another person had like their back turned. And it's just like, it's harder to get into it when you see people like literally they could care less that you're up there, you know?
Yeah.
So it's live music is fun.
And even just like, I know we talked about like the circle of energy. If you hear more people going crazy, you can witness more people jumping. There's more to feed off of. So
yeah, and I'll kind of bounce off of what you just said.
Yeah.
The opposite of that Connecticut show.
Yeah.
We played the Croc Rock in Pennsylvania in 2006, I think it was. April of 2006. I think this show might be, or part of the show might be up on YouTube somewhere. But that was one of those shows where for the first song, I think it was, or second song, I stepped to the microphone. I only did backup vocals. You know, Mike sang, I do backups or harmonies and stuff. If you hear my voice by itself, cover your ears, you know. But I remember stepping up to the microphone and there was this pack of people right in front of me that they were actually singing. You know, it was only a handful of people. It wasn't like the whole crowd. You know, we're not Bon Jovi where everybody's singing every word, you know. But we came to this one chorus and I stepped to the mic to do the harmonies and I couldn't hear myself coming out of the monitor. It was this group of dudes right there, just like, I don't know if it was the Wandering Eyes or the Voice of Sanity chorus. It was one of the two, man. And I just got that feeling like, holy crap, like, you know, it was just like, it was amazing. And so that's the two opposites. You got the people that are right in front of you that look like, get off the stage,
Yep,
we could
yep.
care less. And then you got the people right in front of you that are like, yes, and those are the best ones, man. When you can play that type of stuff and people are digging it like that, there's maybe one other better feeling, and I don't have to divulge what that is. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, yeah, I know that when shows come back, we're super, super excited to see you guys live. We can't wait. And yeah, there's so much to look forward to right now. I know when this whole pandemic first happened, a lot of people thought music was just going to stop or come to a halt. But in 2021, I've heard some of the best records I've heard. I've seen some of the best live streams, and I am so, so excited for some of the best content and when shows return shows.
Yeah, let's hope we stop taking everything for granted and support music, support bands. It's not easy doing music in general.
I saw I think it was on Instagram or social media of like, hey, if we get concerts, we'll stay off our phones, we promise. And that was also my biggest pet peeve when concerts were around, is when I would be enjoying a show and I could see the glare of someone's phone, like two people in front of me. That was the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, we didn't experience that one, but I'm sure if we go out now, we will. But yeah, it's one of those things, man. It's hard not to when you're sitting there at a show. Everybody wants to document everything, and I was here, I was there. But I think you're right. Like sometimes it's best to just disconnect yourself from this, and just enjoy the moment. Because I think it's like when you look back, you don't remember this vision. You remember, or point of view. You're just looking at this point of view from your phone, and it's like, I'm guilty of it too. I've done the same thing. You go to a show and you're sitting there with your phone instead of just locking in and remembering it here instead of remembering it on your phone.
I think Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day put it best, where he said, like, there's hundreds and hundreds of live videos of us on the internet. And if you want to watch those, go home and watch those. But when you're at a live concert, watch me, don't be on your phone, because that's the same thing as just watching a live show on your phone.
Yeah. And, that's like you said, I hope they find a way to, not have, you can't not have them because God forbid there's an emergency happens and everything, but if there's some way to not have people recording and filming from their phones at concerts, I really do, because you said there's a band plays a live concert, right? They're going on tour. Let's just put this out. Let's set this up. Band's going on tour. Like, oh my God, they're coming here in a month. They're going to be here in a month. I got to get tickets, blah, blah, blah. Right. Next thing you know, they're a few weeks into the tour. You go on YouTube and you're seeing every show they've played so far on that tour. You're seeing 15, 20 different angles, and people, they go on and they'll take all those camera angles and make like almost a concert video with decent audio sometimes. And you almost like the excitement kind of goes away. Like it's almost like music when albums leak ahead of time. I'm from the old school of like you'd skip school on a Tuesday to go get your favorite record coming out. And nowadays, like I think a lot of the excitement gets dwindled away by technology, where it's an album leaks, you hear it a few weeks early or a few months early in some cases, and then the excitement goes off. And by the time the album comes out, sometimes you don't even buy it because you've heard it for the past 2 months or a month, whatever it is. And the same thing goes with concerts. You're seeing all these different camera angles of every single show, the set list. And it's like, man, it's technology is great. But as far as this, I think, we need to do something to make that moment more special.
Yeah. And I've talked to a few friends, I've talked to a few radio professionals, and everyone has some very different opinions on like if you should read the set list ahead of time. And I'm of the group that there's no greater feeling than hearing the intro to a song that you didn't expect to hear live in that moment. Yeah. There's an excitement to that you just can't put a word on.
You're right, man. You are. Yeah, you're right.
So I love it. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I really appreciate you talking with me today. Seriously, Omega Kaleid, we are so excited for this record. If you can hear the 2 new tracks in regular rotation right now, and then once the record drops, you can be sure you'll hear more of them. Out March 12th. You're definitely gonna want to pick it up on all streaming platforms, on the physical CDs and vinyls. Definitely pick it up.
Well, it's physical CDs, yes, but they got a little hang up, so they're not. We're not even going to have them, I think, for another week and a half, which sucks. But they are coming. The vinyl, we have to have a little chat about that. We don't know if there's going to be enough, people that maybe want them. I don't know. So that's up in the air. You guys are actually playing the other. You guys are playing Broken Ends as well.
Yeah.
Holy crap! I didn't know that. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, because that was the first single and it really didn't gain traction. And we're like, crap, did we pick the wrong single for the first? Nobody wants to botch that first single because, but that's awesome. You guys are playing it. Thank you so much.
No worries. And again, we've been getting a lot of positive reviews, so it's going well. It's going well. I know a lot of listeners out there are super pumped for this new record.
Great, Val. That's awesome. Super cool, man. I appreciate you taking the time as well.
All right. Thank you so much.
Cool.